the best workouts and nutrition are going to be pretty boring. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you will be kind enough to tell me down below maybe what the exercises you progress on all the time or what your staple foods are, I would love that. So let me know down below, please. All right, so over to this topic. You know, everyone wants exciting. They want new. I even, as a coach, when I program conjugate, I have to think about those things for lifters. But here's the simple reality. No matter what you're doing as far as different changes go in your programming, right? You're always going to want 4 or 5 exercises that are staple exercises. And you're going to want to do those exercises almost every week. You know, it's like 4 of them that I highly recommend: squat, bench, deadlift, pull-ups. I almost feel like maybe for me throwing dips in there at this point, even for me. But the thing is, you're going to have exercises that you do all the time. Okay, and I don't care what else you're doing in your training. In order to make good progress, you're going to want to have 3, 4, 5 exercises that you probably do every single week. Even if it's only once, you're going to tend to do those all the time. You're going to progress on those. Your workouts are going to be boring. The people who get the best results are consistent with these things. I'm going to get over to food also. Why? Because you have progressive overload. You're learning the skill of doing certain movements, and those movements are always going to be your base. They're going to be your foundation. You know, people say, oh, but that's boring. Well, here's the thing. I would always remind people, what are your goals? Are you trying to get jacked? You trying to get strong? You trying to build a physique? You're trying to get healthy? Well, whatever you're trying to do, if you're not progressing on stuff and you're not consistently doing a lot of the same movements and programming, you're not really going to make progress, because you need that progressive overload and you need that to be present. So I'm not saying you can't rotate through some movements, but you're generally going to have some staples that are going to be part of your routine all the time. And quite frankly, I've also seen guys who don't do a lot of variation, who had phenomenal physiques and were crazy strong, who spent years and years and years oftentimes on the same movements. You know, like one guy I used to know had a best physique I ever saw coming up, and he was always like, yeah, most of the time, I mean, he's like, I changed stuff a little, but he's like, I always do incline bench, full squats, and weighted pull-ups, right? Those were like his staples. And, you know, and I kind of asked him on that at one time, and he was like, yeah, I do these 3 exercises every week. He's like, for the last 10 years, maybe, I've done them every single week. He's like, I changed some other stuff, but these are exercises I do every week, right? And he did them on kind of their own day starting. They were like the first exercise of the day for him on those days of the week. And he did that for a decade. Okay. By the way, phenomenal physique, absolutely phenomenal physique. You know, but something I realized early on, even that guy was like that. But this is what we see. People who have great results, they do focus on certain lifts always, that these are their bread and butter. Okay, whether they want to get stronger on them, which you're going to need to get stronger on them, or they're using them to build their physique, people are going to have their foundations. And notice I said those 3 instead of, you know, squat, bench, and deadlift, because his goals were entirely physique and aesthetic. I can tell you that guy was real strong on those 3 lifts. Like, he would rep 315 on the incline. He would rep it. And this was like a guy who was about 210 with abs. You know, so you see stuff like this, and everybody knows this who's been doing this a while. The people who always need the newest stuff, that's fine. If you want to do some accessories and rotate through different types of curls or something, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to want some bread and butter exercises, some bread and butter routines. You're going to want things that you do week after week after week for years on end. Okay? And it's going to be somewhat boring. But some people literally don't need to change as long as you're not getting overuse. There are people out there who have 6 exercises they do for years and years and never miss them, okay? Or 4 exercises and get phenomenal results. And most people will do better that way. Same thing with our food. It's going to be boring. You know why? Because it's easier to keep track of what you're eating and make sure that everything's balanced and healthy. If you have staple foods that you eat, you know, for some person it's chicken, brown rice, broccoli, okay? For some other guys it's steak, eggs, avocados, all right? But generally speaking, the fittest people who tend to be lean, they tend to be jacked, they tend to look good. They're very consistent with their staple foods, or they have a handful of meals that are their go-to meals, and they tend to eat those every day. And I'm not saying they don't have some variation in there, but I mean, just like you guys saw there's pictures of my stuff. You're like, man, Coach, you eat a lot of chicken, brown rice, sweet potatoes, and broccoli. Yep. Those are pretty much daily staples for me right now in there. That's why I eat those every day. Of course, you see the peppers and the spinach, and then I have other stuff in there, dairy and things. But, those are kind of staples for me right now while I'm cutting. It's easy to track. You're consistent. You always know that you're getting good nutrition because you've run stuff into calculators and you know where your vitamins and minerals are, right? And then you know how to add or take away stuff to adjust calories without even having to track all the time. You can keep a looser count. It allows for consistency, right? The people who have to do the most work into tracking everything are the ones who need the huge variety, or they're trying to work in the treats. That's when you have to get really crazy about tracking because you don't have consistency. Okay, it's that consistency that makes it easy and makes it simple. You also tend to overeat a little less because you don't have as much variety. It gives you just better control. But again, it's consistency. And that's why you'll see rice is a very common one, because a lot of bodybuilders are like, I can just add or subtract rice because I eat very similar stuff. That's kind of my calorie lever is going to be the rice. I can just add half a cup of rice for the day or take half a cup away if I need the scale to go up or down. And I don't have to really track anything else, or because I eat a lot of the same stuff. That's going to be kind of my one easy to fix lever that's easy to measure. And I know guys who do that successfully who don't even track calories, who they literally get ready for bodybuilding shows that way, or they get shredded that way, or then they make gains, lean gains that same way, just adjusting their rice intake because they eat rice every day. All right, consistency, consistency, consistency. All right, it's the name of the game, and that's going to be boring. People say it's boring. Oh my gosh, this person does these same 5 exercises every week with a little bit of other stuff. They do these same 5 exercises. They have 4 or 5 foods that they eat almost every day. They eat them all week long. Yeah, but they get results because it's consistent. Everything allows for ease of consistency, ease of tracking, because it makes it easier to track your food, way easier to track your food, right? Way easier to track your food. It makes it way easier to track your workouts and progressive overload if you do it this way. You know where you're at relative to where you were at any other given point, right? Boring and consistent go hand in hand, and consistency is where you get results.